Last year, Illinois became the 11th state in the nation to legalize recreational marijuana and the first in the country to adopt a regulatory scheme for cultivating, testing, and selling cannabis through state legislation. It was a multi-year effort that brought together various stakeholders, including advocates, government agencies, law enforcement, and industry experts. Cannabis production is already increasing to meet demand. New business licenses are being issued, and the regulated system will continue to ramp up as consumers move from the underground to the regulated market. While development of the business industry has stalled slightly in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic, sales have not. Instead, Illinois has seen $52 million in sales tax revenue just from recreational cannabis sales in the first half of 2020. For these reasons, it's important that local units of government know the ins and the outs of the Cannabis Regulation and Tax Act. Everything from individual possession to local control and state regulation is important. This video is the first in a series of videos put on by the Illinois Coalition of Local Government to explain and describe the landscape of the cannabis industry in Illinois. This video will provide a little bit of background on the cannabis legislation, as well as talk about personal possession and use limitations. In the upcoming videos, we'll discuss licensing regulated by the state, as well as local control, state tax revenue, and other related issues such as cannabis in the workplace, consumer protections, and the effects that this may have on our first responders. By way of background, in 2013, the state of Illinois passed the Compassionate Use of Medical Cannabis Pilot Program Act. This law allowed physicians to recommend and prescribe therapeutic use of medical cannabis to patients who are being treated for one of 34 qualifying conditions. Under the program, a limited number of medical dispensaries and medical cannabis cultivation centers were developed throughout the state. Medical dispensaries sold cannabis and cannabis products to licensed individuals under the care of a doctor, while the cultivation centers were essentially grow facilities that prepared, packaged, and transported medical cannabis to the dispensaries. This medical cannabis program created the foundation for which our current recreational industry is built. Following the success of the medical cannabis program, the Cannabis Regulation and Tax Act, also known as CRTA, was signed into law on June 25, 2019. The law went into effect immediately, however, the use, sale, or possession of recreational cannabis did not become legal until January 1, 2020. The CRTA legalized adult use recreational cannabis up to 30 grams of cannabis flower, 500 milligrams of THC in a cannabis-infused product, such as an edible, or 5 grams of cannabis concentrate, such as a cannabis oil, for any Illinois resident over the age of 21. Non-Illinois residents are permitted to purchase these amounts, but only at half of the quantity. Possession of recreational cannabis or cannabis products in excess of these amounts or purchased through illegal means are still unlawful and can incur penalties. There were a number of things that the CRTA did not legalize when it comes to possession and use. For example, it is still illegal to consume or use cannabis in public places. This includes public properties, outdoor spaces, or buildings that are owned partially or in full by the state or local units of government. It is also illegal to possess cannabis on a school bus or school property, with limited exceptions for medical cannabis patients. It is illegal to use cannabis in a private vehicle. It's illegal to drive under the influence of cannabis, and it remains illegal for underage use and consumption of cannabis. It should also be noted that the Smoke-Free Illinois Act applies to cannabis in many of the ways it does to tobacco. Furthermore, the act did not legalize home grow for recreational users. There was, however, an amendment to the medical cannabis program that allowed home grow for patients to have up to 5 plants in a locked, secured place within their residence. As evident by the language maintained in the CRTA itself, cannabis is meant to be regulated similar to alcohol. Now that we understand more about individual possession, the next video in this series will focus on state regulation and oversight of the cannabis business industry. We hope that you found this video informative and enjoyed it. The Illinois Coalition of Local Governments would like to thank the Galdo Law Group for helping with assisting and producing this video. To find out more, visit illinoislocalgov.org.